25 years ago, I sold my soul to the devil to become a corporate executive. I quit it all to play the blues. My name is Tom the Suit Forrest, and this is Chasing the Blues. Hey everybody, welcome to another Chasing the Blues, and today we have a special guest with us, Whiteboy Slim, all the way from Canada. Thanks for calling in there, Whiteboy. How are you?
I'm good, and thanks for having me on the show. This is really exciting.
Well, we're excited to have you, actually. I know today, too, we're going to, at the same time, and this is what we do in a lot of our shows, we are also going to talk a little bit about at least one of my favorites, and I understand one of yours, Muddy Waters, so we're going to be talking about that. But first of all, let's chat a little bit about you. I know you're a guitar player. Are you a singer as well, Whiteboy?
Yeah, I sing. I play guitar. I play blues harp. I dabble in keys, and every once in a while, when there's nobody around for about 20 miles, I'll play a little bit of tenor sax.
Yeah, I do the same thing with instruments that I'm not an expert on. So are you then you're primarily a guitar player? Is that the idea?
Well, I started out as a singer. When I was like 16, I was invited to join this band, and I was a singer. And that band was actually, a successful local band. We played lots of like high school gigs and local community halls and stuff like that. And it was really exciting, but it didn't last very long. And I had a hard time, I hate to say this, I had a hard time finding guitar players that I could get along with. So,
hey, I get it.
So one day I said, oh, to hell with it. I picked up a guitar from a friend of mine, this really old vintage Dan Electro funky guitar, which is the only guitar that I still have of all the guitars I've ever owned.
Don't sell it, man.
It's the one. It's the one I never. I've modified the hell out of it, but I'll never get rid of it because it's such a funky guitar. And I spent about a year woodshedding, and and singing with a couple of bands here and there until I got comfortable enough, and then I went to Boston for a year and studied composition at Berkeley, at the Berkeley School or Berkeley College in Boston, and well, it was a little expensive for this poor country boy, so I came back and started playing bands, and this was just at the tail end of when you could start a band and play 2 or 3 times a week and actually pay your rent playing.
Yeah, so what was it? That was the 1800s, I think.
That was just before electricity came in.
Yeah. I remember those days, man, because I'm that age, so I definitely remember. So it's interesting. My son is the dubious honor of being one of the very few people who ever graduated from Berkeley. Yeah, and it's my fault because every time he would want to quit, because you know how it is. You all go to Berkeley, you make contacts, you come pretty good, and then you go off and hit the road before you you finish. But I made him finish. Yeah. So I know Berkeley.
And the other thing is, you're sitting there like riding up in the elevator to classes, and there's Gary Burton is in the elevator with you, and Al Di Meola, and God knows who else, and you're thinking, I'm not worthy. And you're talking to these guys like Al Di Meola, has been playing gigs since he was like a fetus, right? And I'm going, holy crap, how can I compete with this? So, that was part of it. I mean, do I regret doing that? Probably, because Boston was such a fun town. I had so much fun, and there were so many cool people.
Yeah.
And I got into so much trouble. But
Al Cooper is a teacher there from Cooper Stills and Bloomfield. Yeah, he's a... So So let me get back to the blues here. I know people are going to be interested in wanting to know this. It sounds like you started in your teen years. Is that right? Started playing?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
would you say give me an idea of when you started? Who did you listen to, and give me some of your influences. We'd love to hear about that.
Okay, when I was really young, I had a cousin who was a crazy record collector. She was disabled, so she couldn't get around a lot. So she bought lots of records. She was also the smartest person I ever knew, and she was about 15 years older than me. So she was kind of like a mentor, and she had the most eclectic record collection I'd ever heard. So I heard things like Mahalia Jackson and Peter, Paul and Mary and Big Bill Broonzy and all those folkies those folkies and those black musicians who sneaked into the folk thing in the 50s. So I got that right away, Sonny Terry and Brownie McKee. And then when I was about 14 or 15, I heard Paul Butterfield, and Paul Butterfield in this magazine article was talking about Muddy Waters, so I looked up Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, and I said, "Holy, that's what it's supposed to sound like." and along the way, I heard my dad had an eclectic record collection too, so I heard a bunch of Louis Armstrong and Ray Charles. So I had all this stuff playing at me, and it just kind of seeped in by osmosis almost.
That's great, man.
And then it just went from there.
It sounds like it's important on who you have in your formative music years. So tell me a little bit about why do you like Muddy Waters? I know he's obviously a big influence, and I guess you could say he was the godfather of blues.
Well, Muddy Waters was one of the first guys to go from sharecropping in the Delta and playing roadhouses on an acoustic guitar on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then moved up to Chicago. And he was one of the first guys to get an electric guitar. And he was really, really innovative. And he always had these incredible bands around him. Like if you look at the musicians listings on all his albums ever, he's got some stuff. He's got the band, and he's got Johnny Winter, and he's got the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, and he's got Buddy Guy, and all those people. And it's like he managed to get all these people around him, and he was never afraid. He was never afraid to take chances, right? So that in the 50s. When rock and roll was having a little bit of a downturn, and it was kind of taking the blues with it, and Latin music was going to be the next big thing, Muddy was one of the blues guys, along with B.B. King and Otis Rush, who started doing 12-bar blues with Latin beats, right, like rumbas and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
like upbeat. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like. There's the original version of "She's Into Something." I do a version on one of my albums, but it's more funky than Latin. But I'm tempted to redo it as a Latin one because Muddy's version is so good, and it's just like you can cha-cha or rumba to it, and it's like dance around the floor, And he was never afraid to do that. And then I started listening to his slide playing. And he was like an avant-garde. He was like John Coltrane on the slide guitar. And he would do things that just don't make sense if you try and analyze it, but sounds incredibly good. Like he did this one solo, and I think it's going down to Florida. He does this 12-bar solo on one note through the whole 12-bar solo. And it's all just what he does with rhythm and stuff like that. And he never stopped being creative.
Yeah, that is creative, man. I do that, but it's usually by accident. You are right though. I think about this. In fact, we had a guest on the last show. We were talking about these guys who were the fathers of blues, they didn't have a normal life, what we would consider today. I mean, you think about it.
Oh, no.
Muddy Waters was born like 1913, around there, and he was actually born on a plantation. I can't say that for myself, but I found an interesting quote, by the way. It said, when I went into clubs, the first things I wanted was an amplifier because nobody could hear me play with an acoustic.
Yeah.
And any guitar player, or definitely the poor harp player, and certainly the poor vocalist, knows what volume problems there are out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You had mentioned Paul Butterfield. I don't know if you know James. Do you know who James Montgomery is, by any chance?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I perform with James. He's from Boston, and I have performed with James and Christine Ullman, and he had a lot to do with the Paul Butterfield blues band early on. Really great harp player and really good singer, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you caught him in Boston.
I caught Paul Butterfield in Toronto at Albert Hall, which is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually my birthday. It was my birthday, and my then girlfriend bought me a ticket. And it's a small blues club, and it holds 200, 300 people. And I got to sit right with a table right up against the stage with my feet up on the stage, and nobody asked me to move my feet. And it was the most amazing thing. It was the same place I saw Etta James, come think of it.
Wow.
But and it was incredible. I mean, the weird thing was, this was exactly a week to the day before he passed.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there just like soaring on this, like, right? This is like, I've just seen one of the heroes of my life. He's just like playing and singing as well as he ever did. He would run up to the room in between sets, but his band would come and sit at my table, and we'd like just shoot the shit.
That's
and
great.
Stuff like that. But it was like, I was like, my feet didn't touch the ground for a week. And then I got the news from what I think was Chicago he died in. And it was like, oh man, but at least I got to see him.
Did the band Go ahead.
Oh, I said that wasn't the first time I saw him either. I'd also seen him with the big band. We had that really big band with all the horns.
Mm-hmm.
They were in Vancouver, but it wasn't nearly so intimate because it was in this huge arena, and it was quite amazing. But boy, was it loud! I kind of like the intimate 5-piece band.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Sometimes the ears can't take it. So when you were talking with the band, did they give you any behind-the-scenes story at all that you can share?
No, we just talked about music, and they were quite protective of him. I mean, they were be really discreet about what they said and stuff. It was, they weren't gonna tell tales out of school kind of thing. And
maybe they couldn't.
We just talked about the music, and which was, for me, was fine.
That's cool. Listen, they call me Tom the Suit Forced, and you're called Whiteboy Slim. We should obviously do something together here. But why?
Yeah,
Why Whiteboy Slim? What's behind the name?
Okay, about I don't know, near the beginning of the 2000s, in the very early days of the millennium, and I was working on my first solo album, the one that's under my name, Maurice Richard Libby.
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Richard Libby Blues. It's called Homemade, and I'd mixed it. It was just needed to be mastered and stuff. And I was on this blues forum, which there were a lot of in those days. And I got onto this one, and there were all these guys saying like a white boy couldn't play the blues and blah, blah, blah. And they were all And I was starting to get more and more ticked off because all these guys were like middle-aged white guys who were saying that if you were white, you couldn't play blues. In fact, some of them said you couldn't play blues on an electric guitar.
Oh, that hurt.
And finally, I got so mad, and I logged off the chat room and turned to somebody in the studio and said, "Okay, from now on, I'm performing as Whiteboy Slim, and fuck him anyway." And and so the next album, the second album, was released at Whiteboy Slim. And here's the really interesting thing: the only people who ever complain about that name are white people. And I have, I've played with, lots of people, and have lots of musician friends and stuff like that. And the only people who get all upset about it are usually really conservative white people. And it's like, wow, that's just weird.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. You are white?
More or less, yeah.
Okay. And you are a boy. And you are a boy. Are you slim?
Yeah.
Are you slim? That's the thing I want to know.
Actually, yeah, pretty much. I weigh about 155. So.
Oh God, you're a teeny. No, seriously, only by my standards. So I see that you have you started recording in around 2006, if I'm correct, and it looks like you have about 9 albums out. Is that about right?
Yeah. The 10th is due this year, and I had some minor but really annoying health problems, so it is a delay on number 10. But it's done. It's actually done. It's just we just have to, sort of get the process back on the track.
You have a working title?
It's live at the Bushwhacker Brewing Company.
Live at the
Bushwhacker Brewing Company is a place in Regina, Saskatchewan. It's a brew pub.
Whoa! Where? Wait a minute. Say it again.
Regina.
Oh, wow! I misunderstood you. Okay.
Americans, especially ones from New England, always misunderstand that. I got that all the time in Boston. Where are you from? I'm from Moose Jaw. Where's that? It's right next to Regina.
Yeah. I'm I've been playing blues a long time. I'm a little hard of hearing. Sorry about that. So let's just move on because this is a family show. Hey, so tell me when will this album be out?
Well, it was supposed to be out about 2 months ago. I'm looking now at 2 tentative dates, which I have to decide this week. It'll either be in November for the Christmas thing, or it'll be put off until March because I'm playing a blues festival in that unnameable city in March. So
I got so many jokes that I can say.
It's an album because for 5 years, for 10 years, my bands kept getting smaller. Went from like a 6-piece to a 5-piece to a 4-piece to a 3-piece. And then the drummer quit. And so my bass player and I were just like sitting there going, we got to find another drummer. And my drummer looked around the studio, and there were 3 drum kits lying around the studio. And he said, I could rig something up where if I sit down where I play, I could rig it up where I could play all the drums with kick pedals because we got so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can play bass and I can play drums at the same time. And so we thought, well, that's a good idea. So we he rigged it all up, and it, through the usual engineering sort of simplification and efficiency things. And about a month later, we played a festival in Toronto, and it really went over well. So we just went for it. And if you listen to the last 3 albums, that's Queen City Blues, Diversity, and Quid Pro Quo. Those are all recorded live off the floor, either at gigs or in the studio, with him playing bass and drums at the same time. And there's some video of that too. And I was listening to some of this stuff yesterday, and I just went, I still can't believe that this guy is so brilliant that it sounds like there's a bass player and a drummer. And the only overdub in all 3 of those albums is one song I couldn't sync the guitar and the vocals, so I ended up giving up and dubbing the vocals in, and all the rest. But everything else on that album is live off the floor,
live in the studio. Yeah. So what can people expect about the album? Is it traditional blues? Is it rock blues?
It's really eclectic because it's basically 5 years worth of us collaborating together. So there's stuff like this Muddy Waters, and I think there's some Robert Johnson stuff, and all this really traditional guys like Earl King and Howlin' Wolf and stuff like that. And there's also a ton of original stuff, and some of the original stuff, it's just straight ahead blues, but some of it a little bit avant-garde. Like there's some slightly weird stuff going on, and there's a couple of reggae tunes, a couple of things that have kind of like almost like jazz tunes, and so we kind of, the thing about that collaboration, his name was Dustin Boyer, by the way. The thing about that collaboration was that I would bring in a song, tell him what kind of feel I wanted, and he would either do the feel that I wanted or do a better one, and it would just sort of flow off the.
That's great.
Some stuff was recorded on the first or second or third take.
So out of these 9 albums that you have, did you ever do Muddy Waters song "Rolling Stone"?
No, actually, that's on the list for the next album.
Well,
the one after the life.
I had just remembered that that the Rolling Stones named their band after that song.
After that song, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all about that until you started talking, and then I thought, wait a minute, Rolling Stone, that's Muddy Waters. So you got to do that one. Yeah. That's the next album.
Oh,
that's the next album.
Yeah.
That's great. So let me ask you, it's Regina, right? Regina? Did I say that right?
Regina.
Oh, good. I'm glad I did. What's the blues scene up there? We have viewers from all over the place, and listeners all over the place, and it's always interesting to hear how is blues in Memphis and how is blues in the Northeast, etc. What's the blues scene like there?
It's strong in the sense that there are lots of players around. I mean, you go to Regina, you go to Saskatoon, you go to Swift Current, and which are all cities in Saskatchewan, and there's lots of blues players. So there's jams, every place you go, there's jams on the weekend and stuff like that, and a lot of times during the week. The problem is that a lot of the venues, like my problem that I've been having, is that venues, I used to be able to take my band around, and we would have, 6, 8, 10 gigs a month that would pay enough that it paid the bills, paid the rent, paid everything. And, and all my guys got paid a decent amount of money. And since then, a bunch of these have been torn down to make condos and sort of became trendy coffee bars and things like that. So a lot of the good paying gigs have sort of disappeared. So it's becoming a struggle to find places to play. And Dustin and I were playing as a duo, and playing as a duo was actually a really good economic thing because we had split. And we were, for a couple of years, I won't go into the story of the booking agent who will end up in an alley someday, but that's another story.
I got one of those.
He booked us for a couple of years. He was booking us in all these small towns, and I mean small towns, population 500, 600 people. But a lot of them had bars, and they were really, into it. And we played for a couple of years. We played a lot of those and a bunch of festivals and things. But then this long story with this booking agent happened, and he kind of burned a bunch of bridges, and so that we had to go back and start from scratch again. So it's like now it's trying to start. It's like I used to get really mad because a band would quit and I'd go, oh damn, I have to start from scratch. I have to find a bass player and a drummer and blah blah blah. Now it's like, oh damn, it quit. Now I got to start from scratch, really from scratch. I got to find a new business model. I got to do something, right? Because a lot of the places that used to play, $800, $1,000 a night are paying $200 a night. Or dinner and split $25 with the band, right? Because it's all garage band.
So do you have a lot of tribute bands, that kind of thing in the market?
There are quite a few.
Yeah.
There's been more lately. I know a lot of people that I know have been. I've been seeing a lot of notices around the people forming tribute bands.
That's
sort of niche tribute bands and stuff to try and.
Well, as a special feature of this show, I have a hit squad, and we go around and we kill tribute bands, so there's no problem. Just let me know. Let me know off air, and we'll definitely take care of that. So tell me, is there a place in Canada beside the Saskatchewan area, right? Is there a place? Is there a place that still has a real vibrant blues scene that you're aware of?
Well, there's 4 cities. There's 4 cities that are struggling, but they're still going pretty strong. And some of them have lost venues, which is really sad. That's Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, and Toronto, and maybe Edmonton. And I heard there was a new bar in Edmonton. And the trouble with Edmonton and Saskatoon is that they're really far north, so that they're not on a circuit. So you have to drive like a couple of 120 miles out of your way to get there and back again.
Oh yeah.
So it really eats. Somebody called me once from Texas and said, we just got invited to play at this blues festival in Saskatoon, and we're going to drive up from Austin, but we were hoping we could pick up some gigs along the way. Where can you recommend any place, between the border and Saskatoon where we could play? And I went, holy crap. No, it's really tough.
Yeah.
Especially because the few places that do pay well, book about 6 months in advance. So it's like, it's tight.
Yeah.
It's tight.
So it's kind of like, it sounds to me like the blues scene is a lot like some of the areas that I have talked to elsewhere in the country. Myself, I'm heading off for 3 weeks in China, looking for a little more of a vibrant blues scene. I'll be doing that at the end of the month.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and I know Europe is still looking. It's a little different on that part of the world where people are looking for new music. But boy, with 9 albums, it sounds like you got a ton of things going, and I'm very excited for you. How can people, listen to your music? Do you have a website that we can direct people to? Anything like that?
Sure. The central hub is go to www.whiteboyslim.com.
Perfect.
And that will there's links to everything there.
You're on Facebook too, right?
And I'm on Facebook, just Facebook.com/whiteboy.slim. Go there, be a friend. And I post a lot of video and stuff on there because it's quite immediate. And
how about Twitter? You on Twitter?
Twitter, at @whiteboy_slim.
Okay, that's great. Whiteboy_slim. I like that. All right. Well,
I got kind of carried away when I first started in social media. I didn't think, oh, maybe I should have the same handle on everything.
Yeah, no, we all face that. I've got the suit in some places, and Tom the suit forced in others. So I definitely understand. I know we're all looking forward to this next album. Make sure you circle on back with me and let me know when that album is going to be released, and we will definitely do a shout out on this show for you. I will
definitely do that. Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, man. It has been a great day talking with you. I think we got a lot of information here about Muddy Waters and what you're doing, and I know a lot of our listeners are really into new music, so I bet you're going to have some folks checking that out. Hey, thanks so much, and hey, have a great day, man.
You too, man. It's been great talking to you.
Take care. Chasing the Blues is recorded at Factory Underground Studios in Norwalk, Connecticut. You can learn more about Factory Underground at factoryundergroundstudio.com and connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tom the Suit Forced. You can find my music, tour dates, merch, and more on tomthesuitforce.com. Thank you for listening.
You're telling me to hit the floor. Wondering how you trapped me here. Did someone squeal, or could you smell my fear? I wish that I was still on the run. Never seen that look before. Love or hate, I can't be sure. Your angry eyes are scaring me.